Okay, I have Substance Painter open. One thing I've not been encouraging that I uh, need to encourage this time is save your file once you're done creating your textures and place it inside of your project folder, your Maya project folder for this week. You can save it in the assets file along with the exported OBJ, but I do want you to be including the project, the substance file with your project folder. So save it, place it inside of your assets file inside of your mushroom project folder. Okay, so I am going to go for a stylized look simply because it's a lot of fun. You are so welcome to use any one of the smart materials that comes with Substance. That's totally up to you. But I am going to create a stylized um, texture for this tutorial. So I'm going to make life a little bit easier for me and you if you're doing a stylized texture. I'm going to use a pre-made stylized smart material. I'm going to show you that right here. So this is the pre-made one, which you can then go and edit. So it already has some of the basic parameters like the curvature map, a couple of other things. And I will make this available for you. So you can download this substance file, this smart material, and you can use it for the mushrooms. So I'll provide a link for that, and I'll show you how to upload it into Substance. So you're going to go up to File, you're going to go to Import Resources, Add Resources. Now you're going to find that downloaded smart material, and it's going to be this one right here, this SPSM. You're going to select that, and you're going to click Open. Now Import, and you're going to see it pops up right here in your Assets panel. So now you have this stylized material that has been pre-made, and you can edit it, and it just makes your life a lot easier. So I'm going to provide that for you. You can use this if you want. Now let's go to File, New. Let's select what file we're uploading. I have it already set to my project folder. So there's our mushrooms OBJ. I'm going to click Open. Make sure Import Cameras and Auto Unwrap are toggled off. And I'm going to click OK. All right, there are our mushrooms with our texture maps right here. And I think I'm just going to leave it in 3D only view. So we just have the 3D view. Now we can hold Shift, right mouse button, check to see how light and shadows are interacting. Looks good. And now let's bake our texture maps. So I'm going to go up to the croissant up here. And let's make sure that our output size is a good size. You can have it either at 1048 or 4096. I'm going to leave it at 4096. And I'm going to bring up the dilation width. Then let's go down to the ambient occlusion map and let's bring up the secondary rays. Same with the curvature and the thickness. And now let's bake our selected textures. So you're going to see all of our maps going past, our normal map, our metallic map, our AO map, our roughness map. It's going to take a minute. Okay, and it finished. So everything's baked. Now let's return to painting mode. And now we can apply that stylized smart material we just imported. So I'm going to click this one. I'm just going to drag it out. Okay. So now that saves us the trouble of making the base, the stylized base. You can see it has a very cartoony look to it, a little bit of a texture going on. And now we can edit it so that our mushrooms are different colors. Maybe we'll have a purple one, a green one, a blue one, whatever you want. So I'm going to open up the main one here. And some things I'm going to do really quickly. I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to bring down the edge intensity. You can see that it's not a very soft transition. It's a very harsh transition from the edge color to the overall color. So I'm going to bring down the edge intensity all the way. So you're going to see it's going to look much better. There we go. So we still have some changes with the color from the edge to the overall mushroom, but it's not as intense as it was before. All right, let's make some more changes. Okay, now we can, let's add a black mask to our main base parameters here. I'm going to change my view from 3D to 3D 2D. And we want to mask off just the stalks, not the caps, just the stalks. So I'm going to come over to my polygon fill over here. I'm going to leave it on face, not mesh, because if I try to do mesh, you're going to see it's going to select everything. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to use the face one. And I'm just going to use the marquee to click and drag and mask off just the UV shells that are part of the stalks of the mushrooms. So it looks like I accidentally selected one there. It's a little hard. There we go. Okay, so now it's just the stalks. I'm going to go back to 3D only. Let's check that out. Yeah. Okay. Now let's change the color of this. Let's come back to the color right here and click it. And where it says main color, let's lighten that up to maybe something around there. Okay. So now we have these stalks. I'm just going to name this one stalks parameter. And I'm going to duplicate it. So I can either right click, duplicate layers, or I can just do Control D, which will duplicate it. And I'm going to rename this one Cap 1. And I'm going to remove the mask that we have on it. So I'm just going to right click and I'm going to click Remove Mask. And now let's re-add a black mask. So I'm going to right click, Add Black Mask. Now for this one, I just want to have the tops selected. So I'm going to go back to 3D, 2D, and I'm going to select it here. All of those faces carefully. These ones as well. Okay, back to 3D only. Change the color on this one. So I'm going to select it. I'm going to come down to main color. And for mine, I'm just going to make it a red. Something maybe somewhere around there. Maybe I'll go a little darker. Okay. I'm going to bring up the edge intensity just a little bit more. Yeah, so now we have a little bit of a gradient. It's hard to tell though. So let's change the edge color. Let's brighten it up. Maybe it's a little too of a harsh gradient. So I'm going to bring that intensity back down to maybe somewhere around here. I'll make this an even lighter color. We can even go a little yellow with it. And soft edge color, we can change the color on this one too. Okay, so it's subtle, but it works. Let's come down to roughness amount. Let's change it from 0.63 to 0.4 so that it has a little bit of a shine to it, like a real mushroom. And let's go back to the stalks parameters really quickly, and let's change the roughness here too. So I'm going to select the actual color, base color, and I'm going to come down to the roughness amount, and I'm going to change that to 0.5. So we have a little bit of a shine to it as well. So that's Cap 1. I'm going to select it, and now I am going to do Control D to duplicate it. I'm going to rename this one from Cap 1 parameters to Cap 2 parameters. This is our second mushroom here. And I am going to delete the current black mask. I'm going to remove mask. And now I'm going to add another black mask. Let's go back to 3D, 2D. And let's select it here. Got to make sure all of the faces are selected. Substance is a little slow for me right now, simply because I've had a lot of software open. So my computer is at the brink of a crash out. Okay, so now let's come back to 3D 2D view. Oh yeah, my computer's having a hard time. Let's do 3D only. Go. All right, now this one, let's change the color on this one. So I'm going to select the color right here. Change the main color. For me, I think I'm going to go pink. Something like that. Okay. Cute. I like that one. Now let's duplicate this one as well. Duplicate layers. I'm going to rename this one to cap3 parameters. Same deal. Let's remove the mask. So let's remove mask and then let's add a black mask. And let's go back to 3D 2D and let's select this cap here. Taking a moment to catch up. Okay, I think that's all the faces. Let's go back to 3D only view. Okay, and let's change the color on this one. I'd like to find a nice complementary color. So maybe I'll go orange. It's taking a minute. Okay. And I'm going to change the edge color. I'm going to darken it for some variety. So you can't really tell. Maybe we can bring up the edge intensity a little bit. And let's do the same for the soft edge color. Bring that down, make it darker. I'm just testing things out and checking what happens if I change it from true to false, but I think I'm going to leave it on false. Okay. Let's add some spots to our mushrooms here. So I did mess around with each one of the parameters here for each cap with the soft edge color and the edge color, as well as the edge intensity and the soft edge intensity. So they're all a little different from each other. So feel free to make changes with that as well. Now for the spots, we are going to click the uppermost cap layer, and we're going to put in a new fill layer. And we want to make sure that color, rough, and height are turned on. And let's bring up the height a little bit, maybe around there. Now let's add a black mask. And let's go to our brush tool over here on the left-hand side. And we can mess with the size a bit. And let's just draw in our spots. And you can see they look like there's a height to them, like they're an actual raised spot. So that's why we turn on the height parameter. We can make some bigger spots. And we can make some really small spots. Right here as well. So this part's just for you to do whatever the way you want. There's no right or wrong way of doing this. Get a nice in between one here. And maybe let's do a really small one. Let's change the color on these. Let's come up to the color right here in the layer. Let's change that base color to kind of a lighter tan color, maybe something like that. Okay, now we can close this. We can mess with the height and the roughness on this a bit. We can see how that's changing. So bringing up the height, maybe the roughness so it's not as reflective. That's a little too much. I'm going to go back down. And then the more height we add, the more they stick out. So you can see that that's they protrude out a ton when you bring up the height. So I don't want to do it that much. We can also make them indents if we bring down the height all the way. But we want them to stick out a bit. Somewhere around there. Okay, now let's duplicate this one. So this is going to be spots cap 1. And let's duplicate this. And same thing, let's delete, remove mask, and let's apply a new black mask. Let's do this on cap on the mushroom 2. So I'm going to bring up the size of it. Click a couple of times. Let's do something bigger, maybe something like that. Something smaller. And we're just having a good time doing this, making some spots on our mushrooms here. Okay, so that works. Let's rename this to spots cap 2. And then let's do Control D to duplicate this one. And let's remove the mask. Let's add a black mask. Let's do the third mushroom here. Okay, that looks good. Now let's add some texture to the stalks themselves. So let's select the stalks parameters layer, and then let's add a fill layer on top of it. So now here, we want to make sure that the material has the color and the height toggled on so that we are controlling the color and the height of this texture map. Now let's right click, add black mask. And with that mask selected, let's just right click and let's add a fill. So now where the grayscale is, let's select a stencil. I'm going to click it right here, and I'm going to use the anisotropic noise down here. So I'm just going to select this one. And it is going horizontal. I don't want it to be horizontal. I want it to be vertical. So I am just going to rotate it by coming down here and toggling on true where it says rotate. Now let's go back to the base color. So this part of the layer right here, and let's add some height to it. Okay, so now you can see we have a texture. Our stencil here has some depth to it. And let's change the color of it. I'm going to click where it says base color. I'm just going to make it a little darker. Maybe that nice blushy pink. Okay, now I'm going to select the mask again, and I'm going to right click, add filter, and let's input a filter here. And I'm just going to use a blur so that it's not as intense. Lower it to maybe around there. Okay. Now with this selected, I'm going to right click, add paint. And I'm gonna come over to, my projection right here. Oh, not my projection. Let's go to, my polygon fill right here, and let's select UV chunk fill. Now with UV chunk fill, we're gonna select the tops so that the pattern, the stencil, does not appear on them. So I'm gonna click, and you can see it smooths out the stencil, so it's not visible on the top. Let's do the underside too. And that just smooths out, the UVs for the top and the underside, but because we didn't select the UVs of the stalks or the undersides of the stalks, we still have that stencil there. So now if I come to brush, you can see there's that stencil with the height added to it, and it's no longer attached to the tops of our mushrooms. Okay, I think I'm good with this. I am just gonna go to File and Save really quickly. And now let's rename our shading group right up here where it says Initial Shading Group. Let's rename that to Mushrooms. And now let's export our texture maps here. So let's go to File, Export Textures, and let's pick where that's going to be exported at. We want that to be put inside of our project folder, Mushroom, and inside of the source images. So I'm going to click into the source images. I'm going to make a new folder and name it Substance. And it's in here that we're going to save our mesh, our texture maps. So now everything else looks fine. Let's go ahead and click Export. It's going to take a moment. We're going to get that little pop-up that says Export successfully finished. Awesome. So now we can take those texture maps back into Maya and we can texture the mushrooms there. Okay, we are back in Maya here. Let's apply our texture maps. So I'm going to open up Hypershade. And I'm going to move it to the side so we can see our mushrooms. Now I'm going to make a new Arnold shader. It'll be AI Standard Surface Shader. Let me give myself some space here. I may just have to make this entire window bigger. Go. So let's plug in all of our texture maps. I'm going to rename it really quickly to Mushrooms. M for material. Plug in the color map. So I'm going to come over to the little checker icon. It's going to open up my window. Let's upload a file. Let's upload that file. Open up Substance. Here's our base color. Open that up. And that's good. We don't need to add anything else. Let's go back to the main material here. We can close that. Because there's nothing metallic on our model, we don't need to bother with a metallic map. Let's go to the specular where it says color. Let's click on this one. And actually, let's go to the roughness. So roughness right here. Let's click there. File. And let's load in the roughness map. This one right here. Open. Let's change our color space from sRGB to utility raw. Make sure alpha is luminance is toggled on. Select it here. And that's good. We can close that. Let's now come down to the geometry and where it says bump mapping, click that, upload our file. Let's change it from use as bump to tangent space normals, and where it says bump value, let's click that one. Open up Substance, and let's use our normal OpenGL PNG right here. Open. And let's change the color space from sRGB to utility raw and make sure alpha is luminance is toggled on. And that's really the only three maps that we need. We just need our color map underneath the base tab. We just need the roughness map underneath the specular tab. And we just need our normal map underneath the geometry tab. So now we should be able to just select our mushrooms here and then right click, assign material to selection. Let me turn on my texture view. And there are the textured mushrooms. They look cute. Okay, so now let's light up the scene and render out our final image. So I want to mention really quickly, because I've had some students that have had issues with this in the past. When you are trying to change the color space from sRGB to utility raw, some students have had an issue where it pops up saying error or it just doesn't allow you to change it. You can fix that by going to your Windows tab here, going down to your settings and preferences, and opening up your preferences window here. This is where you can change all of your preferences for everything in Maya. So, for example, the time slider, we can change it that the default is not 24 frames per second. It can be any one of these. We can change the default from your playback start always stops at frame 5, let's say. Um, you can change all your preferences for Arnold. You can change your preferences for rendering. So you can set up your preferred renderer to just the Arnold renderer, um, your cameras. So all your preferences are here. Now, to solve the issue with Hypershade where you can't change your colors from sRGB to utility raw, it's going to be underneath the color management here. You click this one. This is going to be toggled off. You can see it affected my model. This is your issue. You want this toggled on. Once you have that toggled on, you will be able to then go back to Hypershade and change your color space to utility raw. So that's just an issue I've seen in the past. And now you know how to change your preferences to allow you to change your color space. Okay, I'm going to come up with a lighting system and then we're going to take a look at it. Okay, so this is my lighting system that I set up. So I did go to 2-panel mode so that I have the ability to look at my camera and at my perspective. I just set up a simple camera. It is locked, so I can't move it around inside of the camera view. And I have a backdrop where I changed the color of it to a nice dark blue color so that it has more of a midnight look to it. And I also brought the specularity all the way up so that there's no reflective surfaces on the backdrop here. And I used some area lights, just using the 3-point lighting system. And I used some other area lights where I changed the shape to a disc and put them underneath the caps of the mushrooms so that the mushrooms look like they're glowing. So this is my setup. And we can take a look at my finished product right here. So this is my image with all my lighting in place, and I want to render this out. So I need to make sure that I'm rendering from the camera shape. And let's go up to the Arnold render settings and make sure we have all of our settings in place. You want your image format to be JPEG. You want your frame to be a single frame because it's just an image. You want to be rendering from the camera. I set my my preset to HD 1080 so that it's a higher definition photo. And I'm making sure that I'm using the Arnold renderer, not the Maya one. So now going back to the render view, I can go to my save image options. And if I want to render out a higher quality image, I can change my color management to enabled and my view transform to raw. So now when I go to file, save image, I already have a first version saved here, but I just named it mushrooms rendered. And I'm just going to overwrite the one I have right now. And we'll take a look at that final image. And here is my final image. So if I wanted to, I could take this to Photoshop and I could maybe draw some effects over it or add some filters, just do some compositing with the final image. But there it is. So now I'm finished with my project here. I am going to save my scene as mushroom complete. And now you just need to zip up your project folder and submit it, and then you are done with this assignment. I am going to make a separate guide showing exactly how I set up my lighting system with my backdrop and my camera, just so if you want to um, recreate this image, I'll give you all of the info on how to do that. Otherwise, you are all set. Good work.